For the first time in 2023, the Check Swing podcast is on the air. What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. I hope you had an enjoyable holiday season. But now it's time to get back to business. Of course, let me introduce everybody. You already know who I am. You already know who he is, but he's the star of the show. So that's Coach Santa over there, rocking a splendid Eagles shirt. NFC champions. Oh, excuse me. Well,
Don't
no,
jinx it.
NFC East champions. Okay. 14-3 record, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong by 2 games.
It's all
Now
good.
the travel and getting there was completely off for me. But I had them at 12-5. Is that 12 and
Uh,
5? I think I had them at 12-5, I believe. Or did I have them 13-4? See, he's got the notes, man.
12. Yeah, 12.
Had them 12-5.
And I had 11-6.
Okay, so we were close, but no cigar. Close, but no cigar. But I want to thank everybody for joining us today on this special show. We are reviewing the year in sports of 2022. But before we get into that, of course, I got to say, Miguel, how have you been?
Merry New Year!
Merry New Year.
Merry New Year! Man, I am grateful for the start of another year. Even grateful looking back because 2022 was definitely a year of transition. For me and my wife from this time last year, we were still staying with a beautiful family in Bowie in a 6x6 bedroom, um, sleeping on top of each other. Yeah,
Sounds
it
like
was.
a good time.
Uh, at times, sometimes you had to stretch and the back went out, but we reset and restarted as we always say in baseball world. Um, but just grateful. I'm grateful for the city of Baltimore, even with all the craziness that's been going on and you know with the violence and the changes in political government and Baltimore is called Charm City for a reason, and I'm definitely grateful for um you know the easy transition here. And do I miss Philly? I miss the people and some food outlets.
Which food outlet?
I miss, I miss the chicken cheesesteak, and I miss a really, really, really good slice of pizza. Because I was at my barber on Sunday, or she's my stylist, as she likes to say. Um, I was like, where can I find a good slice of pizza? She's like, well, where are you from? I said, I'm from Philly. And then she's like, where's your wife from? My wife's from New York. She's like, you need to drive an hour or 3 hours and go to New York and Philadelphia to get yourself a good slice of pizza. Because Baltimore does not do pizza at all.
Baltimore does the crab cake.
Yes, which I've had. I've had a crab cake from a restaurant. I can't even remember. It was south of Baltimore.
I'm sorry, they're
But
not paying us anyway.
there you go.
We don't have to remember them. Like I've always said, I only get my crab cakes from the Eastern Shore of Maryland or Baltimore, Maryland.
I heard that most of the crabs actually come from Maine and or Louisiana.
Doesn't even matter. It's about how it's made and prepared for me.
I got you.
You get a crab cake here in Philadelphia, you're gonna get a lot of bread and filling.
Yeah,
You get a crab cake in Baltimore or the Eastern Shore, you're gonna get a lot of crab meat.
that's it. I found out because one of the things that me and my wife found out when we were down here, or found out, but we experienced, is that the food tastes a lot fresher down here. So
Hmm.
again, I asked my stylist, and I was like, why? She's like, you know why that is? I was like, why? She's like, well, it's a port city, so we get all the freshest stuff first. Matter of fact, the factory that makes the rolls for McDonald's is right next to that Domino Sugar in downtown Canton.
Really?
Yep. So we get all the fresher stuff. I was like, cool.
So what you're trying to tell me is the hamburger buns at McDonald's in Baltimore are better than they are anywhere else.
Correct. They have less rat infestation and yeah.
I believe it. I believe it. As we get ready to get into the show, I just have to point out that I was like ill prepared to start the show, even though I had so much time to prepare for it. I was ill
You
prepared
you
to
you
start the
you are
show.
so meek and humble.
But what one thing that you didn't even know, I didn't even have my microphone on. Like I was talking to you, and then and then when we went off, right before we went on air, I said, Miguel, can you hear me? Which you weren't supposed to be able to hear me anyway. But then I looked down and I saw the microphone just laying on the desk, and I was just like, well, I don't know how that would have worked out. Good thing I looked.
There you go.
But 2022 was a year of a lot of things happening in sports, just like any other year. But 2022 was the one that we just finished, so that's the one that we're going to focus on. So many things happened. I don't really know where to start, to be honest with you, Miguel.
Hmm.
I know we discussed some things in our pre-show meeting and stuff like that. Um, but one of the things I did want to say was, rest in peace to Bill Russell, who he passed away last year in 2022, an NBA great, one of the goats of the NBA. A lot of people like to say Michael Jordan is the goat. I'm not here to talk about that right now at all, but a lot of people like to say that partially because of he has 6 championships. Bill Russell had 11 championships. So just put that in perspective for you. Plus, of course, I always think that Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest of all time anyway. So I ain't gonna get into that. But yeah, the loss of Bill Russell, you can see it this year on all courts in the NBA. They have the number 6. They're wearing a number 6 patch because that was Bill Russell's number. So a great guy. The All Star, excuse me, that Finals MVP, I believe, is named after Bill Russell. So, and I think Kobe is the All Star MVP. So the Finals MVP is named after Bill Russell. So, first and foremost, rest in peace, Bill Russell. We lost you in 2022. A great life lost, a great life lived, and a great life lost. Miguel, I'm going to let you go ahead and pick the first one. I know if you want to. You look
Pick
like you wasn't ready to do that.
pick what? What am I picking?
Whatever story you want to talk about first for 2022.
Um. So I'll start with So as far as like deaths, I mean, it's arguable. It's arguable whether it's a sport or not. But it kind of affected me from a standpoint of it was a childhood kind of thing. The passing of Scott Hall, because it
Mm.
was mainly because it was so sudden and it wasn't nobody expected it. I think he had broke his hip, went in to get a surgery and had something like 5 heart attacks and was in a coma for a couple days. So, but irregardless of that, it was just remarkable to see. Growing up watching the WWE, WWF at the time in the '90s, at a time when I finally realized that wrestling actually was fake, and then but just seeing his character grow through the years, and then to kind of see the story of when he got addicted to drugs, and there was a whole slew of wrestlers between him and like Jake the Snake Roberts and Diamond Dallas Page, and seeing all the wrestler deaths and stuff, and then seeing him being able to overcome all that and then get into the WWE Hall of Fame last year and be emotional at that, only for him to kind of pass on. But it kind of came full circle.
Correct me if I'm
uh,
wrong. He passed away not too long after being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Am I
Correct.
correct?
Yeah, he was. He was. It was. It may have been within 6 months or something. It was. It was within the
Okay.
year. Yeah, it
It
was.
wasn't as eerie as it was for the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, that was eerie. The Ultimate Warrior one was eerie because he got inducted to the Hall of Fame on a
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, came out on Raw
On a Monday.
on a Monday and was talking. He sounded weird, like he sounded like gassed, like winded, and then he
He
was
did
going
sound winded. I always thought it was because he was an older cat trying to sound like the Ultimate Warrior. So
right.
I just kind of just assumed that that just kind of weakens
Right.
his stats.
It's like when you go to a concert and one of your favorite artists tries to hit that note from back in the day, and it's like, go down two octaves lower.
Yeah, yeah.
But I there's always been like deaths over the years. Like I still have a hard time with like Robin Williams' death. You know what I mean? Because that was just
Mhm.
like, how could the happiest man on the planet
The
do what
shock.
he did? Right. That I still it
He's
still
shocked.
bothers me to this day. But rest in peace, Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon with the worst Latin accent.
One of my
Um,
all-time favorite wrestlers too.
did you like him as Razor Ramon or did you like him as
I like him as Razor Ramon,
yeah?
the
Well,
black guy.
and remember he him and Shawn Michaels, they pretty much invented the ladder match or
Yeah,
magnified it, I should say. But
absolutely.
they perfected it. And as
And
far as
he had one of the easier finishing moves to do to your little cousins too.
yeah, I had that my brother done too. That's why I have no neck now because of that move. But as far as like news story, it's the one story that I'm glad that I was wrong about all year. Because I had picked them to not even make the playoffs, and that's the story of the Phillies. Because
Most people pick them to not make the playoff.
I mean, even it was funny because even when they went on that little run over the summer, I think they won like 10 in a row or whatever. I was like, they still don't got the pitching, they still don't have this, they still don't have that. But it's just proof that in any sport, if you can get in, anything can happen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I yeah.
I am of the elk of saying the Phillies. What happened to the Phillies in the playoffs is what happened to the Phillies all year long. They get
Mhm.
hot for a couple weeks, they get cold for a couple weeks. They get hot for a couple weeks, they get cold for a couple weeks.
Yep.
And unfortunately for the Phillies, that couple weeks ended before the World Series could end. So we got one last hurrah with the Phillies with that 5 home run game or whatever it was, how many of their home runs it was. But it felt like it was a last hurrah at the time, and it
Mhm.
definitely ended up being the last hurrah for the Phillies team. But they're retooling for 2023. They're getting
Yeah.
they're working on that bullpen.
Yeah, and I'm glad because that's what I think that's what ultimately it came down to in the World Series. If we had one more starter, if we had one more guy, because I mean we pretty much had Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and then in the
And
bullpen, all we
Suarez came along late,
yes he did. He came on late, and then we
hmm
had Alvarado and Dominguez,
and they
and
came on late.
they came on late, but that was it. But
Yeah,
you picked up Strom, a lefty. We just got the guy from the Tigers. We got their closer, um,
Soto.
Soto, the Gregory
Mhm.
Soto, and then we got a guy who has a high ERA, but his name is Junior something from the Giants, but he's got like swing and miss stuff, and he's only
And
like 24.
don't forget the Phillies also picked up
Kimbrel,
Craig Kimbrell. So
I and
older
I'm
cat, but
yeah,
still better than majority of what the Phillies had in the bullpen last year.
but I'm glad that they got Soto because I think Soto's an insurance in case Kimbrel doesn't work out. Because
Okay.
that's what we didn't have when we had Knubel and when we got Robertson last year. Those were our closers, and then when they failed, we had nothing else.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So,
669-275-0323. We're talking about some of the great moments of 2022 in sports. One of the moments that stood out to me was Aaron Johnson. And if you don't know who Aaron Johnson is, Aaron Johnson was the first African American woman to win an a Winter Olympic gold medal. She was a speed skater. I think she's from Miami, if I'm not mistaken. Speed skater from Miami, where it's someplace where they don't really even get ice that much. Nonetheless, you're gonna have a bunch of speed skaters down there.
It's like cool
Um,
runnings.
cool running, right? She won the gold medal in 2022 in the Beijing Olympics, Winter Olympics, and she won a women's inline speed skating silver medal in 2015 in Toronto in the Pan Am Games, the Pan American Games. So she has proven herself worthy of being top rated in the world, obviously, when she won the gold medal. And really just kind of endeared herself in the hearts of Americans all over the place. You know, we're very proud of her. She was a big story during the Olympics last year. And you remember, Miguel, I completely forgot that there was an Olympics. I was like, was the Olympics last year? And I was like, no, the Olympics were a couple years. And I forgot the Winter
The
Olympics.
Winter Olympics, yeah.
So a lot of great stories out of the Winter Olympics, but Aaron Johnson is probably the biggest story that stands out to me from the Winter Olympics. And you know, I hope she inspires, you know, more women, more girls, more black women to participate in Winter Olympic sports to where they can be successful. You know, we would love to see more representation um, in those sports. So, with that being said, Aaron Johnson, thank you for giving us some of those Olympic memories. We appreciate it. Miguel, I'm gonna let you pick the next one if you like. If not, I can always pick it.
I would say, switching gears to football, this time last year, I remember watching possibly the best football game I seen in a long time and possibly ever. But it was the playoff game against the Bills and the Chiefs. The game
Mm.
that went into over. The only disappointing thing about that game was how it ended because it was going back and forth the last 4 minutes. I think the lead changed like 7, 8 times, and they were just slinging it. And then I think in the second half, Josh Allen took the team down to score every single drive, I
Possession.
believe,
Mm.
every single possession. And I just remember going back. I'm like, this game is just going to go back and forth. But it was disappointing because in overtime, the Chiefs won the toss and they just go right down the field and score because the defense played not to lose. And you know how much you and I have talked about. You can't play like that. You got to be just as aggressive as you were, the first 60 minutes. And it was just like you gave them the game. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it was the only time I was kind of rooting against Andy Reid. Um, well, just, because for me, I always like to root for the underdog, especially when my team is out of it. I always like to root for the underdog, and some
Hmm.
underdogs are better than others. But I was rooting for the Bills. I really was.
I was rooting for the Chiefs in that game. You know, I wanted to see Andy, you know, continue to be successful. And we know the Chiefs did win that game, but went on to lose the AFC Championship game to the Bengals, who ended up losing the Super Bowl to the Rams, to the LA Rams. I felt like they made it a real big. I mean, it's a big deal for any team to win the Super Bowl. Let me start by saying that. But I feel like they tried to make it like a real big deal that the Rams won, and I felt like nobody cared. Like I felt like nobody cared that the Rams, like when the Eagles won, of course we're in Philly. People in Philly, of course, cared. But it was like people outside of Philly, you see them saying things like, well, finally Philly got one, you know, and you know, they were talking. I felt like when the Rams won, it was just like, okay, the Rams won. Let's get the offseason started. Like it was like nobody cared. Like I kind of forgot the Rams even won the Super Bowl last year.
Well, I think because if you remember correctly, I think that because there were so many stories within that, between because it was actually a really good game. Because you remember how it came down to like the last minute, really. But then the story in the middle of the game when OBJ tears his ACL, and then you see him crying on the sidelines. I think that was the only annoying thing to me about that. It's like you keep panning in on him, and he's like moping and crying, and you know what I mean. But I was rooting for the Rams because I was rooting for Aaron Donald, for him to get one. And then the story with Stratford, remember he got traded, for Jeff Goff mid-season, and that whole story was intriguing in itself. And I
Yeah.
was glad to see him win the Super
It was
Bowl
right before the
because
season started, right? The
no, 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 it
Stafford
was it
and
was like game 6 or 7. It was literally halfway through the season he got
no.
traded. Yeah,
You sure about that?
yes. Once I check Google, I will bet my house on it.
Are you talking about the season, the previous season?
No, it was that season.
Please don't bet your house on that one. Because I don't want to see how your wife reacts when you possibly lose your house to a bet like that.
Was it the 21 season? 22 season. What season was it?
It was the 2021
One
season.
season.
This is the 2022 season, so it was the 2021 season.
2021. Ooh, wait a minute. Shut up your face. Hold on.
I just want to say that I'm pretty sure it was an off-season trade.
Why did I think it was in the? I could have sworn it was. It was in March of 21. Jeff
Yeah,
Goff was traded for a first round pick in both the 22 and 23 drafts, and a 21 third round pick were traded to the Detroit Lions in exchange for quarterback Matt Stafford.
yeah.
All right.
So we'll just move along from that.
Yeah, I lost
I
that
don't
one.
want to dwell on that one.
I swear, you know what it was? I think it was OBJ that got traded midseason. That's what I was thinking
He
of.
did. He was cut from the Browns, I believe, and picked up.
And
He
then
was picked up by the Rams midseason, but Von Miller, I think, was traded
right, Von Miller was traded, and
midseason.
Deshaun Jackson was on that Rams team, and he got cut.
He got cut that year. Yep. So Deshaun Jackson has a ring. He
Technically, but
did
I
get a
don't know.
Super Bowl ring.
I don't know if he. We'll see about that.
Well, continuing reviewing the 2022 season, the 20 sports in 2022. Excuse me. One of the major things that happened that we discussed quite a few times on this show was some milestones and we'll call it breaking of records in baseball. Um, and we both gave our opinions that, and I don't let me put words in your mouth, Miguel. Correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but we both gave the opinion that Albert Pujols' 700 home runs was a bigger deal than Aaron Judge's 72.
See, that's how
Or
insignificant it
no,
was.
60. I'm
It,
sorry,
it
60.
was so insignificant to you, you can't even remember the number. That's how
It was
insignificant it was.
it was 60 something, right? It was 60,
60, it was 62. 62 was the record.
62.
Yeah.
Okay, 62. Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about the hype behind it, right? So I was thinking about it just the other day. Let me take this hat off. I was thinking about it just the other day, and I was like, I know I said it on the show, and I'm gonna say it again. If he was playing for the Seattle Mariners, if he was playing for the Texas Rangers, would it have been such a big deal? And I just feel like it wouldn't have been. Now, it was an American League record. It was a team record. I don't think any other team gets followed the way the Yankees do. So the media would want you to think that the Yankees are baseball, and to a stingy extent, they're correct. I mean, you can't think of Major League Baseball and you can't tell a story of Major League Baseball and not have the Yankees be part of that story. But Albert Pujols' 700 home runs was such a career milestone in his final season in the majors, and there's only a handful, literally a handful of people that have reached 700 home runs. Literally, you have Albert Pujols, you have Barry Bonds, you have Hank Aaron, you have
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. Thank you. I couldn't think of his name. You have Babe Ruth, and I believe there's one more.
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, because the next one is Willie Mays, and he has six. Or no, it's
It's A Rod, right?
A
Next
Rod.
one's
He
A
has
Rod.
696, and yeah, and then
Right.
they told
Willie
me,
and Willie didn't make it to 700 either. So
yeah,
some of the game's greatest players did not make it to 700 home runs. So I thought that was and you can still make the argument some of the league's greatest players didn't make it to 64 home runs, right? Or
mhm.
62 or whatever it was. But 700 means you had the career longevity to be able to still hit home runs at an elevated age for professional sports. Aaron Judge might be on that same path to getting to 700. He's got a long way to go, but he might be on that same path. But I thought that was a great story in sports for 2022. Um, Miguel, your opinions or your next great moment of 2022 or
No,
moments?
I definitely agree with the Albert Pujols home run 700 home run chase, and I think it was bigger again because of the longevity. Plus, there was never any doubt, never any rumor about whether any of his home runs were tainted, any of his, you know, bats were tainted or health was tainted. There was no steroid talk with him. He was always all business all the time. And he's a make from the past where I still believe I got to check his stats, but I believe he's never struck out over 100 times. If he did, maybe once. Um, Whereas I think 200 strikeouts is kind of normal today.
Which is amazing, right? It's amazing because let's put this in perspective for people that may not be fans of baseball and understand. You probably get four at bats a game, being where Albert Pujols bats in lineup. He probably gets four at bats a game, right? At least four at bats a game, 3 to 4 at bats. You play 162 games. So let's do the math on that real quick. We got a computer here. This is 2023. We can do the math on this, okay? And while I'm doing the math on this, what's the 162 game? 164 games, Miguel.
162.
162 times 4. That means you're going to bat 648 times in a season, being saying that you played every day.
Mhm.
In baseball, if you go 3 out of 10 for your entire career, you're a Hall of Famer. I don't know what percent 100 is of 648, but if you struck out 100 times or less in a season, you're an amazing player.
The most he's ever struck out was 93 times, and he did it twice.
Amazing. Amazing. Tony Gwynn type numbers.
Yeah, and it's he averaged. I mean, the first I'd say 8 seasons he averaged like 500 and maybe 60, 70 at bats, 40, 45 home runs. But yeah, he's a special and the I understand like with analytics and stuff like that, like it's almost like you don't want to get an out, but strikeouts are acceptable. Like it's looked upon so well that you can go 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts as long as you get that one hit and you get that one home run. It's just it, I hate watching it sometimes. You know what I mean? And
For the baseball fans out there, just think of it as if Nick Castellanos had got one hit per game, we'd have loved him.
mhm.
We'd have loved him. One hit per game, we'd have loved him. Just put that in perspective. He ain't get close to that, but what was your favorite moments of sports moments of 2022? Hit us up. Let us know. 669-275-0323. 669-275-0323. This is the Check Swing Podcast. We're going through some of the greatest moments in sports from 2022. I brought up that one, Miguel. I'm going to let you bring one up.
How about we go with retirements? So, a couple of big names retired this past
Let's
year.
get a little closer to the mic. There you go.
I'm sorry. I got too relaxed. Um, Retirements last year. A couple of big names retired, but I think the biggest one, of course, for me, and it's twofold because I love her, and that's Serena Williams going out with a bang. But even other than the fact that she's a goddess and gorgeous and um, if I were a stalker, but I was disappointed because I think if she would have won like maybe 3 or 4 more Grand Slam titles, then she would have gotten that record. And that's what I was hoping for because
I want to say she was one away
she was
from.
close. She was it was 1 or 2 or
She either
whatever.
needed two more to break the record or one more to break the record. I can't remember. I think she needed two more.
Right. And I was
And
like,
yeah,
yeah, and I was like, how could it be that someone be so satisfied that they were that short from the record and be okay with it? Because I personally wasn't okay with it. But
yeah, you know what? And you bring up a good point because the competitor in itself,
yeah,
and I'm sure like it's probably the competitor that she is. I'm sure she's come to terms with it
yeah,
within her decision. But I'm sure the competitor in there was like, I need to get those two more.
mm,
I need to get those two more. I know the fan in me wanted her to get the two more, just like Tiger.
right,
Tiger's like one or two away. I want Tiger to get it.
right,
I'll be honest with you. Look like his son probably going to end up getting it, but
right.
that's neither here nor there. I can't stand his son, by the way. And it's nothing personal. I don't know his son or anything like that. I just can't stand the fact that he's so good at golf at 13 years old, getting eagles, and I'm struggling to get a birdie.
I'm struggling to not bogey 12 times.
Yeah, that too. I'm struggling to get par. Shoot, yeah. Let me just put it
There
like
you
that.
go. Put it apart.
Struggling to get par.
But
But
at the same time too, I think I understand though because then you're chasing something and you're at that age where it's like, how long are we going to chase this thing? You know, because you'd be
yeah,
surprised when you look at the record book. When you'd be surprised, like how like A Rod missed 700 by 4 home runs, and there's a
and
lot of
walked away.
players that right. There's a couple players that missed 3,000 hits by like 10 or less. So it's like but I like the fact, and I think Mike Schmidt had said this when he announced his retirement abruptly. He's like he could have hung on for like 5 or 6 more years, but he didn't want to do that to himself, and he didn't want to do that to the game to be a
Mm.
hanger on. So I kind of came to terms with that.
Well, here to me is the difference between what Mike Schmidt is saying and what Serena and where Serena was. In my personal opinion, my humble opinion, I felt like Serena was still capable. Somebody on Facebook says, shoot under 100, you're good. Thank you. I shot under 100 the other day. So, shot 91 the other day. But anyway, I feel like Serena was still capable of being that top tier, top notch player. Um, and I don't want to come off as sexist or anything like that, or a chauvinist or anything like that.
But you are
But
coming.
once she became pregnant and had to be, I think I told my wife, I said her, she's done.
Well,
She's done.
and she talked about that postpartum hitting her really hard,
Well, it
and
wasn't even for me. It wasn't even that. It wasn't that like I'm a guy and my mind doesn't even go to postpartum. Like I don't even know.
but
My
she had
mind don't go.
but she had it though. She had postpartum.
She had it right. She had it, but when I was saying it, I was saying it to the fact that for one, I don't know her regimen. I don't know how she works out. But while you're pregnant and while you're nursing and being a new mom, you're not necessarily focused on being a top tier, one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen. You're focused on being the best mother you can be.
Mhm.
I'm assuming. And with that being said, when you become a parent, your world becomes your children, right? Some of the other things that may have mattered to you may not matter as much to you. Not that I know how much tennis meant to her after she had her daughter, but I just felt like the Serena that we knew we were not going to see that Serena again. And unfortunately, I think maybe she might have won one or two, maybe after she had the baby.
Yeah.
But I just felt like with the baby and with other interests and stuff, the traveling and the schedule that she would have to keep became would become something that she may not be willing to really keep on to continue to take on. Now, let's also put in the fact that right now Serena's like 41 years old, which in any sport at 40, 41 years old, you're at the end, you're pretty much at the end of your career, unless you're Tom Brady holding on somehow. But you're pretty much at the end of your career. Brett Favre was in his 40s. Aaron Rodgers is close to his 40s. LeBron is getting close to his 40s. I think Vince Carter played till he was like 40. Kobe was close to 40, I think, when he retired. So it was becoming that time. And I felt like I said it on the show before. If you watch Serena play, I watched Serena play her entire career. Nobody up until maybe to the last couple years, nobody beat Serena. She beat herself. Unforced errors, like she would make the mistakes, and had she been able to cut down on like half of those, she'd obliterated that record, obliterated the record. She would be at the top standing. So, with that being said, Serena walked away from the sport. Um, Unfortunately for us, we saw, or fortunately for us, we saw greatness. You know what, Miguel? I think about people in our age group, right? People in our generation. And I think about some of the great players that have played different sports that we were able to see. Michael Jordan, Barry Bonds, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Ken Griffey Jr., uh, um, um, Wayne Gretzky. I mean, and track is kind of funny because somebody always gets faster and faster and faster. But Usain Bolt,
Mhm.
Michael Johnson, Carl Lewis, like all these greats that we were able to see within our lifetime, within a short lifetime.
Mhm.
We've seen some great athletes, some amazing athletes come through, and I'm assuming they just going to get better. But, whoo, man, we are lucky. We didn't get to see guys like Wilt. We didn't get to see guys like Babe Ruth. We didn't get to see guys like Jim Brown, but we did see Barry Sanders. We did see Tom Brady. We saw Joe Montana. Man, what a time! What a
Yeah,
time!
and I still
Miguel, continue to give us some of your thoughts on Serena.
no,
And that's you.
because her timing was, when you look back on it, it was kind of perfect, but again, I like the way she presented it. She's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not playing tennis anymore.
Right.
And she set up her life. And I think this is the change that I like about sports in general is that nowadays, like when you and I grew up and players would retire, you would hear stories like the most depressing story I heard was about Kirby Puckett because Puckett was one of my favorite baseball players growing up because he was short and chunky like myself, and he proved that short, chunky people can play baseball and be successful because short, chunky people matter. Um,
Yes, we do.
but it was sad to hear the story that he did not handle retirement well at all.
Mm.
Led a double life, you know, gained like 200 pounds, was arrested for public urination in a strip mall and threatened to kill his wife a couple days before the Hall of Fame. And it was just like he just did not handle, and he was the representative for the Minnesota Twins. So it was like now it's like you don't really hear his name, and and then he unfortunately passed away because of some of his part of his lifestyle. But like in his playing days, he was a great baseball player, a great teammate. Um, didn't hang around too long, but then you hear, like there's other baseball players. Like I know Eddie Murray was kind of like hanging around until he got his 500th home run.
Eddie
He
Murray was
played
alive for a long time.
long time, but once he hit his 500th home run, then he was able to kind of put that to rest and whatever. But it's like I'm glad that Serena didn't. I'm glad Serena didn't hang around and do what Ric Flair did. Okay.
What, get old and saggy and still compete?
Did you see?
Skin look
Uh,
like it's falling off?
did you see his return to the ring last year?
I didn't, but I knew he was coming back to. Yeah, I knew he was. I saw a commercial or something where he was coming back.
For whatever reason he needed to have one more retirement match, and he
And
had
I'm
it.
going to tell you, I'm going to tell you this, Miguel, and I'm sure you had your moment, as well. It is one of the hardest things to do is to decide that you're no longer going to play this game
Mhm.
and actually stick to that. Because I mean, I only played through college and a little bit after college. I think I played my last game 2 summers ago, and I was actually on the phone with with Ryan. He's trying to get me to play this year, but I don't want to play. Like I'm myself. I am at a place where I'm like I'm okay with not playing baseball, but what I needed to do was find something else to replace that competitive aspect of my life. So then I started focusing a little more on golf, and I want to play more golf this coming year, this coming summer. Um, that will fuel my competitive side. I also play poker. That was fueling my competitive side for a while when I wasn't playing baseball. Between when I was in between teams like in leagues and stuff, playing poker and playing golf. It's hard to it's hard to go from competing all the time to not competing at all.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. And I'm sure you probably had that feeling as well when you stopped playing baseball. Um, it's hard to do something that you did all the time, and all of a sudden now you're not. It's hard to go into that locker room, with your teammates, with your buddies, with your family, and then all of a sudden now you're not going into that locker room anymore. That locker room is gone. There's no locker room for you. Your locker room is your own bathroom in your house. Okay, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to walk away from. And with Serena, I really hope that she's she's like as much as I want to see her play again. I hope that she is content with no longer being a professional athlete and now probably being competitive in her own way in some other realm, whether it be fashion or whatever the case may be. So, it's
Yeah,
just very. I go on to say it's very difficult to be playing something all the time, being competitive. And I've never been at the level of Serena or any of those top athletes, but it's very hard to be there, and then all of a sudden it's not there.
yeah. I just hope it doesn't turn into, and not that she's alluded to it at all. She says she's done. She's done. But then get the itch and then come back like 2 or 3 years later, like Jordan did. There was no reason he needed to play for the Wizards. I'm sorry that he should have just made a couple of cameo appearances in place of Allen Iverson in the 3-man league that he tried to start and didn't show up for. You know what I mean? Like, do stuff like that, but just don't keep
I don't want you to soil your Allen Iverson's name like that. I have to say, I have to come to the defense.
we talking about practice.
I have to come to the defense of AI in that I feel like AI was from the very beginning was not expecting to play in that league the entire season.
They
I felt
announced them.
like
They
he
sold
was part.
tickets based on that.
I, I think that was all part of the plan. Honestly, I mean I don't think
Wow.
he planned on getting hurt and not being able to play,
Hmm.
but I believe that he was one of the anchor pieces to be able to sell tickets for this league.
But he
You
did
take
that
Allen Iverson out of that mix, what makes it interesting? The fact that Dr. J's coaching,
in the fact that Dr. Dre was one of the co-owners of the league.
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. I always get those two. I'm sorry, Ice Cube.
But what I'm saying is like there was no other reason. Like there were other NBA players that were playing in it or former NBA players, but Allen Iverson was the name. It's like, oh, I'm going to see Allen Iverson play again. I'm going to check this out. But that allowed that league to springboard into what it is now. And 3-on-3 basketball is an Olympic sport.
So you're saying him not showing up actually helped?
No, what I'm saying is him showing up. Him showing up helped. His name being on it helped. But once he stopped, the league had to take the audience that they had from him because people didn't stop watching because Allen Iverson was hurt. Because in that first year the basketball was very interesting. Like we didn't know if it was like 3-on-3, me, you, and another guy playing against 3 other guys, and it's a friendly game, or is it 3-on-3 basketball? We going out for blood, and you learned that this is competitive. They going for blood, getting into fights and everything out there. Like you probably would like the league because I know you like the old school NBA. So
I saw. What did I see? I saw a. No, it was in the Olympics. You had showed it to me, and I was like, okay.
yeah, 3-on-3 is in the Olympics. So
Yeah, I did. I did like what I saw in the Olympics. That was actually pretty cool.
one thing I did want to mention in today's show about a moment from 2022. Even though it hurt, I was happy to see Dusty Baker finally win a World Series trophy. He's been a part of the game for I don't know how many years, 50 years at least, and he finally got his World Series trophy. And I'm happy for Dusty Baker. Unfortunately, he had to come against the team that I enjoy rooting for, but he got it nonetheless. He was the only black man in the World Series. Think about think about that. He was the only black man in the World Series. He was the coach.
Do you know which team has the most African American baseball players on their
Currently,
currently on their roster? It may surprise you.
it may surprise me because what? Because of the city it is.
Yeah.
So because you said that, I'm going to change my guess to Milwaukee,
What was your original guess?
Pittsburgh.
No to both.
Let me try one more. Uh, uh, trying to think. Trying to think of some of the teams that are out there. Would it be Seattle?
Yes, it's Seattle. Seattle has the
Proud
most.
of myself.
Yeah, but Seattle, it's like really. Now I am glad because I think the who did the Phillies get? One of the pitchers. Oh, they got the dude for Taiwan Walker.
Yes, they did. They did.
Um, but I think that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that Phillies didn't have not one black person on the team. Do we have any more moments? Or are you ready to be stumped by 6 NBA questions?
I think I'm good.
You think you're ready?
I think I'm ready.
Well, they're not actually all NBA questions, but they are all basketball questions. So, and if you are watching and you have an answer for any of these questions, go ahead and type it in the chat. And here we go.
Rajah Bell.
Is incorrect, but here we go. How long is a quarter in Olympic basketball?
Oh,
And I have multiple choice if you need it.
do they even go? Do they go by quarters or they? I thought they went by halves.
In Olympic basketball, they go by quarters.
They
Yeah.
do go by quarters. Okay.
hmm
I'm gonna say 12 minutes.
12 minutes is what the NBA does, and it is incorrect for this question.
Do they go by metrics? Are they? Is it in centimeters?
No.
Um, let's see. So in hockey, the ice is bigger. I'm gonna say they probably have less time. So 10 minutes.
10 minutes a quarter is correct.
Got it.
Question number two: who is the youngest player ever drafted by an NBA team? And I have multiple choice for that if you need it.
Is it LeBron?
LeBron is one of the choices, but is incorrect.
Okay.
And actually,
Kobe.
when you Kobe is also one of the choices, but incorrect. And when you hear who the answer is, you might like start booing. But so I'll give you the other two because you already guessed two of them. Andrew Bynum and Jermaine O'Neal.
Oh, sweet Jesus! It's got to be Andrew Bynum.
It is Andrew Bynum. I don't know. I wonder what Andrew Bynum is up to these days. I don't know.
He's probably still doing the salsa dancing in Spain.
I'll tell you what though, if in some weird way, I'm sure that if it wasn't for Andrew Bynum, the Sixers would not have Joel Embiid today.
Oh
In some weird way, I know it had to fall
no!
that way because in getting Andrew Bynum, the Sixers traded Andre Iguodala, which also in turn traded away. We ended up trading away everybody because that's what started the process. But here we go. Question number three: Who holds the NCAA records for most field goals scored in a season with 522 and in a college career with 1,387?
Christian Leitner,
Christian Leitner is incorrect. Would you like the multiple choice? Couldn't think of the word. Would you like the multiple choice?
Grant Hill.
Grant Hill is also incorrect.
What are the choices?
Your choices are Pete Maravich, Oscar Robertson, Steph Curry, Rick Mount.
Is it more current or less current?
Less current.
Oscar Robinson.
Oscar Robertson is incorrect mundo. The correct answer. Do you want the answer?
Yeah, go for it.
The correct answer is Pete Maravich. Pistol Pete Maravich.
Should have gone with my original.
Was it Pete
It
Maravich?
was Pete Maravich. It sounded nice.
Okay. Just so you know, I was looking for the video because I know you worked hard on it, and I'm still not finding it for some reason. I don't know why. I think maybe you texted it to me or something.
No, I emailed it to you.
But here we go. Here's your fifth question. Fourth question. Which player holds 6 of the top 10 NBA single game scoring records, scoring 70 points or more 6 times?
Kobe,
Kobe is incorrect.
Jordan,
Jordan is also incorrect.
Chamberlain.
Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain is the answer. I was going to say, I was going to give you a hint.
Yeah, it was only gonna be one of those three. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely right. All right, here we go. Which of these players was named league MVP but never led his team to an NBA Finals title? Karl Malone, Reggie Miller, John Stockton, Tim Duncan.
Reggie Miller,
Reggie Miller is incorrect.
Carmelo.
Karl Malone is correct, which now I'm realizing that Reggie Miller was never the league MVP. Interesting.
That is a that and well, when you think about it, it's like all right, he played the same years as Jordan and Ewing, and so I don't think even if he was even if he made all of his shots, I don't think he would have been able to garner that award.
Nah, they weren't. They didn't want to give it to anybody but Jordan, except for Karl Malone at the end there. But last question: which player hit 57.3% of his three pointers to set the NCAA single season completion record? Completion record.
Is that the right sport?
Yeah, I think there's something different. Let me ask this the way it should be asked. Which player hit 57.3% of his three pointers to set the NCAA single season record for percentage of three pointers?
What are the
Completion
options?
record just sounds very strange.
It sounds really weird.
I'll give you multiple choice for this one. I see you
Yeah,
start to
yeah.
sweat a little bit. Steph Curry, Steve Kerr, Steve Alford, Steve Novak.
Why so many Steves?
I was just wondering the same thing.
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr. That didn't work out well. Steve Kerr is correct. I was trying to throw the card at the camera like Letterman used to do. It didn't work out well. Let me try one more time.
Lord.
Steve Kerr is correct.
There it is. That's perfect. That was
There
perfect.
it is. So right now I'm going to go ahead and close these phone lines. Everybody was being shy today. But remember, when we are on air, you can definitely call us live 669-275-0323. Miguel, we're getting ready to get up out of here. You got any last words for the folks for our first show of 2023?
Merry New Year. Did you still want to? I have the video up if you want me to play it.
We'll close out with the video. How about that?
That'll work.
We'll close out with the video because that way, hopefully, we don't get cut off. So when you have that up, okay, you have it though almost. So I'm going to thank everybody for joining us on the Check Swing podcast. We have a video montage that Miguel put together for us to end the show today. Some of the greatest moments in sports of 2022. Some of the ones we missed. Some of the ones that might have been on your mind that we might not have gotten to within this show. So when we get to that and put it up, make sure you enjoy it. You can comment on it, whatever you want to do. But we love y'all for checking us out. Make sure you let your friends know about us. Make sure you let your family know about us. And of course, without a doubt, make sure you let your enemies know about us too. They would love to hear us. Or they would probably hate to hear us. So since they would hate it, y'all go ahead and let them know about it. But for Miguel and myself, we're going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us. Actually, I'm going to sit here and watch this video with you guys. So until then, we'll talk to y'all next time right here on the Check Swing podcast. I might talk through it a little bit. Might talk through it a little bit. As you see, you got Aaron Johnson, Albert Pujols, Serena Williams, and Dusty Baker there.
May have sealed the deal.
And then you got, here you go. Can you turn that down just a little bit, Miguel? Are you able to turn that down just a touch? As you see here, you have the LA Rams winning the Super Bowl over the
7-1 at one point.
Cincinnati Bengals, which was one of the moments that started the year. That was in February. And then here you have the Colorado Avalanche winning their Stanley. They haven't won a Stanley Cup since like the early 2000s and 90s or something like that. And they won a Stanley Cup, got back on that winning ways. You remember when the Colorado Avalanche were really good, Miguel? They had like Patrick Waugh and
Claude Lemieux, and
it was like the Avalanche and the Detroit Red Wings was always battling. That's when like hockey was fun to watch back then too.
Yeah.
And here you got Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors winning another championship, beating the Boston Celtics. They hated Boston Celtics, couldn't stand them. Be quite honest with you. And then one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time, you have Coach Mike Krzyzewski, known as Coach K. I'm a North Carolina fan myself, so I was kind of like, thank God he's leaving. And of course, there you have Serena Williams there jumping around, being happy that she won the title, walking away from the sport. You know, she will truly, there's the cat suit. I'm sorry, I was distracted. And right here you have the World Cup. Messi finally getting over that hump and winning a World Cup in his final World Cup appearance. He said he is retiring from World Cup play. And here you go, Aaron Jackson, winning the gold medal in the Olympics right there over Poland's Ziomek. I'm going to say her name was Caitlin Ziomek. I don't know if that was her name or not. I'm just going to make that up. Didn't mean to do that. Here we go. Sorry. There you go, right there. Aaron Johnson winning that elusive Olympic gold medal, as you see, emotions there.
I want to know who that random person was just jumping into the shot, patting her on the back.
I wanted to be on the show. That's all that was.
Ladies and gentlemen,
and as we stated earlier, Albert Pujols,
ceremony for Albert,
one of the all-time great
Yadier Molina
baseball players here. Yadier Molina,
today,
both retiring from the game. I believe Wainwright was also retiring, but decided to come back. I guess he felt like go out like that, got swept by the police, go out like that. But Pujols and Molina said, you know, we can go out like that, and we will go out like that. Pujols said, I hit my 700, I'm out.
Number 4.
I love how they both dyed their beard black.
Yeah, they don't know how to embrace their gray like we do. We embrace our gray.
Number 702.
702 for Albert Pujols. There they go, leaving the field for the last time at Citizens Bank Park. Actually, no, it was in St. Louis. And there is number 700 by Albert Pujols right there against one of his former teams, the LA Dodgers. And as you can see as Albert is approaching his final trip around the bases, got a little bit of a gut. Just a little bit. But when you as good as Albert Pujols is, when you get to that age and you're still hitting home runs at that age, you're allowed to have a gut. Okay? You're allowed. It is okay. 700 career home runs for Albert Pujols. And here you have New York Yankee Aaron Judge against the Texas Rangers hitting his 62nd home run. And there was somebody that jumped down in the burrows of behind the wall to get that ball. There go his folks, I guess. And as he takes his trot around the bases. You know, it's funny to see, you know, these guys hit these home runs, right? When Hank Aaron hit his, you had people jumping out the stands and they were running around the bases with him. You don't have that these days.
Not at all.
Not one of those things that happens. And here's Bryce Harper in the playoffs against the San Diego Padres, one of the greatest home runs in Philadelphia sports history. Question for you, Miguel, as we watch this: Bryce Harper's home run or Matt Stairs' home run? Which is bigger? I don't think you could choose.
I mean, they both resulted in going to the World Series.
I'm going to say Matt Stairs because his resulted in winning the World Series.
Yeah.
Those results were a little bit better.
Although I think the Phillies caught lightning in a bottle. I think with Harper, I think we'll hopefully have more of these moments.
Yeah, because Harper doesn't hit that home run, Phillies probably don't go to the World Series because they were not hitting the ball that day.
Right.
And that's the moment right there where the Phillies clinched the NL pennant. Thank you. Thank
On
you.
3 pitches.
Where they clinched the pennant against the
2
San Diego
pitches.
Padres.
There goes the runner. Fly ball down the
Here you
right.
go here.
Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they finish the job. The Houston Astros.
There you go right there. Houston Astros winning the World Series. I want to say, was it the first time they won after being accused of cheating?
Yeah.
After being caught cheating? So it was the first
Yep.
World Series. It was their third appearance after being caught cheating, I believe. Because they lost to the Dodgers. They lost to the Nationals. No,
And the
they
Red-
lost to the Braves. They lost to the Nationals.
and the Red Sox.
They didn't lose the Red Sox in the World Series. I'm just talking about World Series.
Oh, sorry.
I think the Dodgers beat the Red Sox, right? I think.
Yeah, the Dodgers did the Red Sox.
Right there is your 2022 sports year in review, brought to you by the Check Swing Podcast and brought to you especially by Coach Miguel Santa. And with that being said, folks, we are going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us on the Check Swing Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and hope y'all enjoyed that video montage. We'll talk to y'all next week right here on the Check Swing Podcast. We love y'all for loving us. We out of here. Peace. As soon as I can find the video.